Oh, goddess. I was once so timid, so afraid of what others thought, that I could do nothing but cower in silence. But that was then. Now, a burly bandit grabs her, sneering that the noble's carriage they just hit came with a bonus. He beckons her forward, "Come on!" But her fist clenches, and with a devastating crack, she drives it straight into his chest. The bandit chokes in disbelief. He collapses to the ground as his companions watch in utter shock. The leader can only stammer, "What?" She looks down at her fist, her inner monologue continuing. "But goddess, I've become strong. Strong enough to instantly knock down a man twice my size." The bandit leader scoffs. "I'll admit you're a feisty one, but you're still just one girl." But a strange, thrilling feeling washes over her. He continues, "That was a lucky shot. It won't work against all of us, so just give up and do as you're told." Instead of surrendering, she raises her fists. A confident smile spreads across her face. In a flash, she unleashes another devastating punch. The bandit is sent skidding across the ground as his companion gawks in disbelief. The leader is stunned. Before he can even process it, she's already on the next one, and another bandit goes flying. Her focus is absolute. The last bandit charges in, screaming as he swings his sword, but she's way too fast. A brutal uppercut connects. She grabs him by the collar, a chilling smile playing on her lips, and he crumples to the ground. She casually takes a seat on the unconscious man, surrounded by the bodies of his comrades. Only the bandit leader remains. "So," he says, "you're the only one left." Still seated, she looks up with a predatory grin. "Then let's settle this," she purrs, "one-on-one." But how did this happen? The story flashes back several months, where a voice calls for the next person in line. "Ms. Scarlet." She nervously answers, "Yes." We see the Scarlet of the past, a timid girl who was always the subject of cruel whispers from her peers. She could only look away, unable to say anything back. This is Scarlet Rosian, a first-year student and the daughter of a Margrave struggling to get by. Overwhelmed by the attention, her book slips from her grasp. The other girls just snicker at her clumsiness. Utterly mortified, she can't stop herself from blushing. But then, a kind voice offers to help, noting that her magic isn't concentrating properly. "You seem to be in trouble," a handsome upperclassman says, looking down at her. He gently picks up the book she dropped. He suddenly places a hand on her back. He explains that she needs to focus on the magic circulating through her body, but his hands-on approach is making her extremely uncomfortable. Scarlet completely freezes up. He tells her she's too stiff and needs to relax, but his closeness is having the opposite effect. Her classmates immediately start whispering, sneering about how she's getting touchy-feely with an upperclassman again. They cruelly gossip that Scarlet's mother was the king's mistress, who was pushed onto the Margrave after she became pregnant. Even the upperclassman comments, "Blood can't be denied, can it?" Overwhelmed, Scarlet pulls away, wondering why things always turn out this way for her. She's constantly bombarded by the lustful gazes of the boys and the disgusted stares of the girls, even though she never asked for any of this attention. All she feels is utterly and completely alone. This all takes place at the prestigious Royal Magic Academy, a school exclusively for the children of nobles. And within this academy, only a select few are privileged enough to hold tea parties in the central garden. Here, a group of girls fawn over one of their own, praising Angelica Sama for her brilliant performance in a recent mock battle. This is Angelica Roseberry, the Prime Minister's daughter and fiancée to the second prince. Her friends gush that with her talent, it's no surprise she's engaged to royalty. But her gaze turns to Scarlet, who flinches as Angelica calls her name. One of Angelica's cronies starts laying into her, accusing her of using magic tools and her looks to rely on men, calling her pathetic. Scarlet can only sit in silence. Her eyes fill with tears. The other girls sneer, whispering that with those eyes, she's obviously trying to seduce someone. "How scary," they mock. Powerless, Scarlet can only clench her fists in her lap. Her mind screams what her mouth cannot. "If only I could say they're wrong." Another noblewoman looks down on her, sighing. "Looking down like that again. You'll have to enter high society eventually," she says coldly. "You must be able to handle a little banter." Scarlet bites her lip, unable to respond. The woman snaps, demanding, "If you have something to say, then say it clearly." But still, silence. If only I could clearly express how I feel. Through her tears, a desperate thought forms. If I could just become strong, could I finally change? As the group disperses, onlookers whisper sarcastically about how passionate Angelica is with her guidance. Just then, Angelica looks up in surprise. A handsome young man with a condescending smile appears behind a startled Scarlet. The other girls immediately recognize him, fawning, "It's Abel-sama." He gives them a lazy wave, and they instantly bow their heads in deference. Leaning in close to Scarlet, he asks with a smirk, "So, what kind of guidance did you receive today?" And his identity is revealed. Abel, the second prince of the kingdom, and Scarlet's half-brother. Scarlet flinches, a tear of shame rolling down her cheek. She's completely trapped, surrounded by her high-status tormentors. Angelica lets out a dramatic, bored sigh. It's always the same with her, she complains. She can never express her own opinion and just stays silent. The air fills with the sound of their quiet, mocking laughter. Utterly humiliated, Abel twists the knife, musing aloud, "If this continues, you might even disappoint father, you know." Scarlet just wants to disappear. He leans in, his voice dripping with false concern. "Scarlet, can't you try a little harder?" But his smile is pure poison. She can only manage a weak, defeated yes. One of Angelica's cronies eagerly chimes in, "I will also dedicate myself to her guidance. Please, leave it to me." She continues, speaking as if Scarlet isn't even there. But we mustn't push her too hard. And Abel delivers the final, chilling offer. "If things get too difficult, you can always come and ask me for help." Her mind screams the words she can't say out loud. "Then help me right now." But Abel just looks down on her with that same condescending smirk. Even Angelica's cronies are taken aback, whispering that the prince is being far too attentive to Scarlet. But Scarlet remains silent, her eyes empty. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoes through the courtyard. She looks up, startled. A deep voice calls out her name, Lady Scarlet. Standing behind her is a mountain of a man, her personal escort knight, Howard, announcing that it's time to leave. Flustered, Scarlet stammers that her ride has arrived. With a quick bow, she excuses herself, finally escaping the suffocating circle as Howard gives the nobles a curt farewell. Angelica and her cronies are left speechless. As they walk to the carriage, Howard asks, "Lady Scarlet, why didn't you say anything back to them?" His voice is stern as he continues, "That girl was insulting the entire Rosian family." But Scarlet just stands there, silent. She quietly steps into the carriage. Inside, she notices the seat cushion has been slashed open and sighs, "To the temple again?" Howard's expression hardens. "Praying to the gods is all well and good, but perhaps you should focus on training your mind and body to become stronger." He delivers the final blow. "If this continues, you will tarnish the honor of the head of your house." His words hit her like a lightning bolt. Sitting alone in the carriage, a single desperate thought begins to form in her mind. She sits in the carriage, her reflection showing a girl on the verge of giving up. At this point, she thinks, no matter what I train, my life will never change. But that despair was forged in a crucible of constant torment, where boys would corner her and girls would stare with malicious glee. If only they would all just leave me alone, she'd think, wishing she could just disappear. Her only escape was the temple. A priest there always recognized her. "Ah, Lady Scarlet." He'd comment on her fervent piety, but Scarlet could only manage a quiet, "No." The priest would then offer to guide her to a private room for her prayers, but even this small kindness couldn't stop the overwhelming sadness. Because no matter where she went, the whispers and hateful stares always followed. Again, she thinks. Those awful looks. Outside, her escort knight Howard waits patiently. Inside, Scarlet begins a desperate prayer. "Oh, goddess! I want to be strong." She doesn't want to cause trouble for her father, and she's tired of just silently waiting for the torment to pass. "Please, grant me strength," she pleads. "I want to be strong." She clasps her hands tightly, pouring every ounce of her desperation into the prayer. The statue of the goddess seems to look down upon her serenely, and then a divine voice echoes from above. "I shall grant it." "Huh?" Scarlet whips her head up, stunned. The voice booms again, speaking directly to her soul. "I shall grant you strength. Become strong." Suddenly, a divine wind swirls around Scarlet. She feels a strange, overwhelming power coursing through her veins. "Eh?" she whispers, completely bewildered by the phenomenon. A new, powerful light glints in her eye. From the radiance above, an elegant foot descends. A beautiful, ethereal figure emerges from the light. It's the goddess herself. Scarlet looks up, completely awestruck. The goddess gazes down at her with a serene, gentle smile. Scarlet is frozen in stunned silence. As the goddess embraces her, their two forms begin to merge into one. Lost in the moment, Scarlet can only whisper, "So beautiful." The goddess muses that it takes a great deal of power to manifest in this form. Scarlet snaps back to reality. She stumbles back slightly, and finally asks the question on her mind. "Are you the goddess?" The divine being smiles knowingly. Her simple yes confirms everything. She leans in, her voice like a soft melody as she begins to introduce herself. She is Turasaku-no-Ti, the goddess of fertility and the founding goddess of the All-Star Kingdom. Completely overwhelmed, Scarlet can barely manage a response. The goddess waits for a reaction, but she's the one who's shocked, yelling, "That's it? Aren't you supposed to be more surprised?" Scarlet can only stammer out an apology, still processing everything. Turasaku-no-Ti just waves it off, deciding to move on. She gets to the point, revealing that Scarlet has a hidden status. When asked if she knows what it is, Scarlet has no idea. The goddess declares that Scarlet possesses the status "beauty that topples nations," an ultra-rare trait that appears only once every 4,000 years. Scarlet echoes the words in disbelief. She timidly asks what that status even means, and the goddess confirms it's exactly as it sounds. It's a power so great that men will kill each other for her, and entire nations will go to war, all for her sake. The goddess then asks Scarlet a simple question. "So what do you think of this power?"
Scarlet looks horrified.
Her hands clench into tight fists. With her head bowed, she stammers, I don't want it." Turasaku-no-Ti smiles, seemingly pleased. "Yes, that's right. That's a relief for me to hear. Because if things continue as they are," she says ominously, "this country will be destroyed because of you." Scarlet's eyes go wide. The goddess explains that she used her future sight to explore every possible outcome. "But no matter what I saw," she continues, "you became the singularity that led to the kingdom's destruction. And so, Scarlet," the goddess declares, "I'm going to have you avert that future." Overwhelmed, Scarlet stammers, "But how am I supposed to do that?" Turasaku-no-Ti points decisively. "I will change your hidden status." A spark of hope ignites in Scarlet's eyes. "You can change it?" The goddess affirms with a simple yes. With a gentle smile, she gives Scarlet her true mission. "Now, Scarlet, become strong." A brilliant light envelops Scarlet's body. Her eyes snap open. A moment passes. She looks down at her hands, feeling a new power coursing through them. "What is this?" As a divine aura surrounds her, the goddess's voice echoes, "I have changed your hidden status." The goddess's voice echoes, "Well then, let's have you overcome your first trial immediately. Listen, Singularity Scarlet, you are about to be attacked. Deal with it." Scarlet is stunned. "Huh? Attacked? How am I supposed to deal with that?" The goddess smiles serenely. "Do as you please. You can use your new power or any other method you choose." Suddenly, the divine light vanishes, leaving Scarlet standing alone in the vast, empty temple. She looks back, but the goddess is gone. Then a voice rings out in her mind. "Now, here they come." Scarlet's eyes widen in terror. "Wait, no way!" But her attackers are a group of young priests, blushing and completely captivated. "Lady Scarlet?" Scarlet flushes, completely bewildered. The priests declare in unison, "All of us have had our hearts stolen by you. Please give yourself to us." Her mind races in panic. "Priests! These are the attackers the goddess prophesied?" A cold sweat trickles down her face. One of the priests pleads, "Just once is fine. Surely the goddess of fertility would also wish for a child to be born." Desperate, Scarlet glances towards the statue of Turasaku-no-Ti, but the goddess's stone face remains silent and serene. She is utterly speechless, trapped in a waking nightmare. The lead priest closes in, whispering menacingly, "If you behave, we won't do anything bad to you. Now, come to the inner room." He suddenly grabs her wrist, pulling her forward. He yanks her forward, her mind reeling in shock. But then, something inside her snaps. She plants her feet and uses his own momentum against him. With a powerful twist, she sends the lead priest flying over her shoulder. His eyes go wide with disbelief. He slams hard onto the temple floor. Scarlet stares at her hands, just as surprised as he is. "Huh? My body, it moved on its own." The other priests can only stare in shock, their anger flaring. "You! Their surprise quickly turns to menace as they begin to surround her. "How dare you!" one of the priests snarls, lunging forward to grab her. He yanks her hair hard, but her body moves on instinct again. She spins and unleashes a devastating kick right to his jaw. Tears well up in her eyes, horrified by her own violent reaction. Another priest can only gasp in shock. Her attacker goes flying, sailing through the air before crashing to the ground. Scarlet is left standing in a perfect combat stance, framed by the temple light. What is happening to me?" she whispers, completely bewildered by her own power. Her mind flashes back to the goddess's final command. "Now, Scarlet, become strong." But this wasn't what she meant. She cries out in desperation, "I wanted to be mentally strong, not physically." The goddess simply smiled. Scarlet stands frozen in silence. Suddenly, a senior priest storms in, furious. "Committing violence in a church? Have you gone mad?" He threatens her. "If I report this, your family's name will be dragged through the mud." His face twists into a slimy grin. "So, you understand what you have to do, don't you?" Scarlet panics, thinking, "But my body is moving on its own. What am I supposed to do?" As the priest advances on her, Scarlet is trapped, unable to control her own terrifying power. Her foot plants firmly on the ground, and her body snaps into a fighting stance against her will. "Ah, it's happening again." Scarlet desperately pleads, "Don't come any closer! My body! It's moving on its own!" But her warning only enrages the senior priest. "What? How dare you be so cheeky?" He raises his heavy staff, roaring, "Just be a good girl and offer yourself to me." Scarlet squeezes her eyes shut, but her body flows like water, easily dodging the clumsy swing. In a flash, she's behind him, her leg already coiled back for a counterattack. A brutal kick connects with the back of the priest's neck with a sickening thud. His eyes roll back. Lights out. The senior priest slams face first onto the cold stone floor. Scarlet stares, her mind completely blank with shock. She stands alone amidst the bodies, the terrifying reality of her new power sinking in. Her eyes dart up to the statue as she desperately calls out, "Goddess!" "You never said anything about becoming physically strong." But the stone effigy offers no answers to her frantic plea. What am I supposed to do now? All around her is the silent testament to her uncontrollable power. I prayed for inner strength, she thinks, not the strength to break people. What have I become? Whipping her head around, she screams one last time, "Help me, goddess!" But then, a voice echoes in her mind from a recent memory. The voice of the goddess Turasaka. Suddenly, a tiny, fluffy creature appears beside her, declaring, "We're going to change the future, starting now." Scarlet is speechless. The little puffball stomps its foot and unleashes a surprisingly powerful aura. Her shock deepens. This was not the divine intervention she was expecting. The tiny creature snaps, "What's with that look? It's me, Turasaka. Utterly bewildered, Scarlet can only think, "Goddess, why are you in that form?" The tiny goddess huffs indignantly. "A goddess can't just descend to the mortal realm in her true form," she snaps. "It requires an immense amount of power." Then, looking smug, she adds, "Still, you passed the first trial. All thanks to my divine power, of course." Scarlet is still completely lost. "Trial? I don't understand what just happened." Suddenly, a voice echoes from outside the room. "Where did those guys go?" Peeking out, she sees other priests searching the temple grounds. Her eyes widen in realization. "This is bad," she mutters, a dark aura of panic surrounding her. The fluffy goddess suddenly dashes forward, yelling, "We're leaving this room now!" Scarlet is snapped out of her panic, completely baffled by the sudden command. Somehow they manage to slip away, meeting Howard back at the carriage. With Scarlet and her tiny new companion safely inside, they make a hasty retreat. The little goddess peeks out the window, making sure they're in the clear. Scarlet, meanwhile, is still trying to process everything that just happened. Once they're a safe distance away, Turasaka plops down and gets right to business. "By the way," she says smugly, "I went ahead and changed your hidden status." A stunned Scarlet can only stammer out a thank you. With a glint in her eye, the goddess continues, "Your new status is invincible in a bare-handed brawl." Scarlet just stares, completely bewildered. She tries to sound out the unfamiliar words, invincible in a brawl? What on earth does that even mean? "That's right," the tiny goddess chirps proudly. "It means exactly what it says. You will be undefeated in any bare-handed fight." Because you wish to become strong. So I simply granted your wish, she declares. Scarlet is at a loss for words. The goddess rolls onto her back, gloating. We even tested it with that little trial, and you passed with flying colors. Good job, me! Scarlet looks completely exasperated. This isn't quite what I had in mind, but I guess it's too late to say anything now. You still look confused about that trial, don't you? Turasaka Natia says with a sly wink. All right, I'll explain. Let's start from the beginning. Your hidden status, beauty that topples nations, was going to cause the ruin of this kingdom. Scarlet looks worried. But my status has already been changed, right? So the problem should be... Not even close, the tiny goddess states flatly. Scarlet listens, her expression growing serious. Turasaka Natia continues. Even if your status has changed, your face remains just as beautiful. And the alluring charm that drives men to madness still lingers. The priests who attacked you earlier are a perfect example, wouldn't you say? The goddess waves a paw with a smug look. Of course, things might get a little better once your new status fully settles in, but her expression hardens as she points a tiny paw. Regardless, at this point you are still a singularity holding the fate of this entire nation. The realization dawns on Scarlet. So that's why I was attacked earlier. Turasaka Natia declares with grave importance. Exactly. That incident was originally supposed to be the very first step towards this nation's ruin. The goddess lays out the disastrous original timeline. Your knight Howard would have rushed in to save you from the priests, only to be framed for assault and thrown in jail. He'd be stripped of his knighthood and exiled from the kingdom. His resentment would fester until he returned at the head of an invading army, all because he tried to protect you. That's why we can't lose Howard. His strength is a military asset vital to this nation's survival. Scarlet gulps, the true weight of her situation finally sinking in. The goddess explains that these turning points, these singularities that decide the nation's fate, will continue to appear before her. And her mission is to face them head-on and avert the kingdom's destruction. That is her trial. Scarlet looks down, overwhelmed. But that... Suddenly the carriage jolts to a stop. Turasaka Natia peeks outside. They've arrived back at the Rosian estate. The goddess turns back to her, her expression grim. Let's get started with your next trial. Stepping inside the Rosian estate, Scarlet is immediately escorted by a stern-looking man. She nervously glances around the familiar halls. The maids in the hallway pause their cleaning, just to whisper and snicker behind her back. The disdain is palpable from everyone, while Turasaka Natia glares back at them with pure fury. Suddenly a voice echoes from the main hall. Scarlet flinches, her eyes darting towards the sound. A smarmy voice calls out her name. Hey, Scarlet! Leaning on the banister is a portly young nobleman with an incredibly punchable face. This is Aaron, the acting steward and her childhood friend, and he asks with a condescending smirk, How was school today? Scarlet doesn't answer. Her expression is cold, but tucked away in her arms, Turasaka Natia is absolutely seething. The goddess explodes in a telepathic rage. Who is this tub of lard? How dare he speak to me with such arrogance? Scarlet panics. Goddess, he'll hear you. But Turasaka Natia grumbles that she can't just reveal her divine identity. Scarlet explains that Aaron is the acting steward of the family's mansion in the capital. Which means he's supposed to be serving you, Turasaka Natia shouts, outraged by the disrespect. But Aaron is a smooth talker, and because Scarlet's parents are often away, they've placed their complete trust in him. A trust he's been abusing, she thinks, hiring his own people and even cooking the books. So you've just been letting him walk all over you, the goddess concludes, arms crossed in disapproval. Turasaka Natia sighs. Well, with a master as timid as you, I suppose it was inevitable. Heavy footsteps descend the stairs, stopping right in front of the silent Scarlet. Aaron leans in with a greasy smirk. What's wrong, Scarlet? Scared again? You're so clumsy, he continues condescendingly. Everyone in the mansion was worried sick about you. Scarlet doesn't answer. He turns to his hand-picked staff for validation. Right, everyone? They all snicker in agreement. Going quiet on me again, are you? He taunts, seeing her pained expression. Scarlet's hands clench into fists. Her old instincts scream at her. Just endure it. Just get through this, and she can finally be alone in her room. But Aaron looms over her, reaching out a hand. Come on, just let me hear your voice once in a while. She squeezes her eyes shut, her patience wearing dangerously thin. But then, her eyes snap open. Wait a second. She sees Aaron's hand reaching for her. But for the first time, she feels no fear. As his hand gets closer, a strange thought crosses her mind. His movement, they're so slow. That's right. With a simple fluid motion, she effortlessly dodges his clumsy lunge. A cold realization dawns. With my status as invincible in a bare-handed brawl, Aaron can't even lay a single finger on me. And in an instant, the power dynamic has completely flipped. A dangerous thought crosses Scarlett's mind. With this power, I could undo all the times I've had to endure him. Aaron is completely baffled. The staff stares, utterly shocked. But Scarlett's eyes widen. No! She imagines it, a single powerful strike. Just like that time. I could easily... Her hand clenches into a fist. Send him flying! A wave of pure, primal fear suddenly washes over Aaron. He's paralyzed, drenched in a cold sweat, sensing the murderous intent radiating from her. Scarlett snaps back to reality, horrified at her own thoughts. Wait, what was I just... Scarlett composes herself, clutching the tiny goddess as the terrifying aura vanishes. Still sweating, Aaron can only stammer, What was that? She turns her back on him completely. I'm going to my room. Leave me alone for a while. His fear quickly turns to rage as he demands, Wait, what was that just now? But Scarlett doesn't even flinch. He's left absolutely seething. All he can do is scream her name in frustration as she ascends the grand staircase. Scarlett! She finally reaches the solitude of her room. Once the door is closed, her calm facade crumbles, revealing just how shaken she is by her own dark thoughts. With a solid thud, the goddess Turasakunatea jumps to the floor. The goddess is fuming. What was with that attitude? Like, how rude! Scarlett is startled. She's still deeply troubled by her own actions. You poor thing, Turasakunatea exclaims. To be assaulted by a creep like that? Scarlett is confused. Me? The goddess hops onto a nearby chair, changing the subject. Yes, tonight. She reveals a shocking truth about the original timeline. Because of the incident at the temple, your escort knight Howard was imprisoned. And with him gone, Aaron would have come to attack you while you were alone. And so, she declares, raising a paw, here is your next trial. You must thwart his surprise attack tonight. To do that, you cannot let Howard leave your side. Scarlett nervously agrees, realizing she'll be attacked if she's left alone. The goddess warns her that if Aaron attacks her, the entire kingdom will eventually fall. She lays out the catastrophic chain of events. Scarlett forced to marry Aaron, Prince Abel using it as a pretext to start a conflict, and the entire nation plunging into a bloody civil war. It's a bad end that will happen in the blink of an eye. Scarlett can't understand why her brother, Prince Abel, would do this, but the goddess answers with a chillingly sweet tone. Because you're his cute, cute little sister. She explains it's a twisted male instinct to want to protect a weak, helpless girl who can't defend herself. Scarlett is utterly speechless. The goddess gets back to the point. Understand? If your knight is here, Aaron can't get close to this room. So, when Aaron tries to enter tonight, you must have Howard standing guard right in front of the door. That's all you have to do. The goddess declares with a serious expression, this is your next trial. Scarlett swallows nervously, the weight of the kingdom suddenly on her shoulders. Her mind flashes to Aaron's smug, overbearing face, always acting like he owned the place. The thought of that man coming for her tonight brings back a familiar feeling of helplessness, a memory of being struck, of being unable to fight back. But this time her hand clenches into a tight fist. A new unshakable resolve hardens in her eyes. The goddess yawns. So that's how it is. Scarlett is ready. She will not be a victim ever again. With her mind made up, Scarlett turns to the goddess. I'm going to sleep now. The scene fades to a single flickering candle flame. A memory. Oh, goddess. I have an idea. Turasakunatea simply yawns. Oh, good night then. And we flash back to that fateful night, to the desperate prayer that started everything. The look in her eyes held a desperate plea. Our story begins with the goddess Turasakunatea, the founding deity of the All-Star Kingdom, and the object of her divine intervention, the beautiful Scarlett, with brilliant golden hair, perfectly defined features, and an enchanting figure. Her shy, introverted personality only amplified her charm, making countless men fall for her and countless women burn with jealousy, and for good reason. You see, Scarlet possessed a hidden status. Its name, Beauty that Topples Nations. A catastrophic charm so powerful it could bring ruin to an entire kingdom. Men would fight over her, plunging the entire nation into a war that would ultimately lead to its destruction. And to prevent this catastrophic future, one being decided to step in, the goddess herself. Using her divine authority, she completely rewrote Scarlet's fate, changing her status to invincible in a bare-handed brawl, which also conveniently granted Scarlet's desperate wish to become stronger. Her new mission, to punch the future of destruction right in the face. And the first obstacle on that path? This guy. Aaron, the acting steward of her estate. A greedy pig who's been treating the place like his own personal piggy bank. The goddess foresaw that tonight, Aaron would take advantage of her knight Howard's absence to sneak into her room and attack her. And if that sleazeball succeeded, it would give her twisted half-brother Prince Abel the perfect excuse to start a civil war that would tear the kingdom apart. The goddess's instructions were clear. Make sure Howard is with you and you'll overcome this crisis, Scarlet. But while the goddess takes a nap, Scarlet formulates her own plan, thinking, that's right, all I need is Howard. She immediately gets to work penning a letter. The solution seems so simple, even the sleeping goddess dreams of it. And here he is, the man of the hour, her personal knight, Howard. With her letter in hand, Scarlet finds him, but instead of asking him to guard her, she makes a shocking request. Could you please leave this mansion right now? Howard is completely stunned, because Scarlet's real plan hinges on one simple thought. If only Howard wasn't here. Her logic is simple. If no one finds her sudden change suspicious, then she can fully unleash her invincible in a bare-handed brawl power and use it to personally demolish Aaron. It's a flawless plan in her mind, but for a knight, her words have a much heavier meaning. Are you dismissing me? Scarlet quickly realizes her mistake. I'm sorry, that was a poor choice of words. She holds out the letter. This details the current situation at the mansion. I need you to deliver it to my father as quickly as possible. His eyes widen. He stares at her, the weight of the mission sinking in. Howard's eyes narrow as he connects the dots. So, you finally intend to report Lord Aaron? Scarlet meets his gaze with steely resolve. He lets out a heavy sigh. I understand, he says, taking the letter. Lord Aaron might try to interfere. I am the right person for this. Scarlet is practically glowing with relief. Her plan is working perfectly, but Howard's protective instincts kick in. However, this leaves you in danger, Lady Scarlet. We must appoint a replacement guard. Scarlet freezes. Huh? Her mind races in panic. A replacement knight? But that would ruin her entire plan. Howard falls into deep thought, weighing the options. Finally, he rubs his temple. It can't be helped. I'm still uneasy, but we'll have to entrust your protection to Cyril. Howard continues. He may be a bit frivolous, but his skills are reliable. I'll send for him immediately. As Scarlet internally screams, her perfect plan, utterly deflated. And just like that, before she can even protest, the door bursts open and a new knight rushes in. Lady Scarlet, he calls out with a cheerful grin. Scarlet is completely thrown off balance. The knight, Cyril, beams at her. At your service! Her mind goes completely blank. This is the exact type of energetic, overly familiar person she is worst at dealing with. He leans in closer, snapping her out of her daze. Lady Scarlet? And she instinctively recoils with a yelp. Cyril just beams, completely misreading the situation. What's wrong? You're not feeling well? Scarlet shrinks back, her mind screaming, this guy has zero concept of personal space. He places a hand over his heart. Allow me to properly... With a flourish, he bows. Introduce myself. I am Cyril. And there he is. Cyril, a guard knight of the Rosian family. Scarlet, trying to regain some semblance of control, stammers, That's enough of a greeting. She points towards the door, her voice trembling slightly. Please, I need you to guard from outside the room. His eyes practically explode with stars. As Scarlet collapses in on herself, Cyril strikes a dramatic pose. To be entrusted with such a great duty is a tremendous honor, she thinks. This is all Howard's fault. But then, his cheerful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a sudden serious contemplation. Scarlet eyes him warily. Is there something else? With a thoughtful expression, Cyril asks, "About that, where exactly did Sir Howard go? I saw him leaving the estate." Scarlet's plan is already on thin ice. She tries to command the situation, ordering, "You will not speak of that to anyone." But her authority has zero effect. Cyril's bright smile returns in a flash. "Yes, ma'am. Understood." The sudden shout disturbs the sleeping Turasakunetia. "What? It's so noisy?" Cyril freezes in disbelief. "It talked?" He completely loses his composure, pointing frantically. "What is this tiny little creature?" The tiny creature is furious. "What is with this rude young man?" Turasakunetia snaps back. Ignoring the talking fluffball, Cyril strikes a dramatic pose. "I am Cyril, the rising star entrusted with Lady Scarlet's protection while Howard is away." But the goddess finally processes his words. "Wait, Howard's gone? Scarlet, what is the meaning of this?" Cornered, Scarlet stammers. Well, you see..." But Turasakunetia isn't listening. "That's right, so where did Howard go?" The goddess continues her tirade, demanding, "Explain yourself." Scarlet's mind goes blank as she internally screams for help. Desperate to control the chaos, she tries to dismiss her new guard. "Cyril, please, just leave for now." She calmly instructs him, "Please wait in the standby room that Howard usually uses." Pointing the way, she adds, "You can get there through that door." And a dejected Cyril finally agrees. But as he leaves, a mischievous idea strikes him. "Oh, but while I'm in there, maybe I'll find Howard's diary or something." He grins slyly. "I think I'll have a little read." Completely defeated, Scarlet facepalms. "Do whatever you want. I'm so sorry, Howard." With Cyril gone, Scarlet tries to justify her decision to the silent, looming presence of the goddess. If he's in the standby room, Aaron might not even notice he's here. She closes her eyes, trying to convince herself, if I can just move freely on my own, this might actually work out. But her optimism is shattered by a furious squeak from the bed. "What do you mean by that?" Scarlet flinches. Stealing her resolve, she finally confesses the truth. "Howard is on his way to our territory now." Turasakunetia is aghast. "Huh? I explicitly told you not to let him leave your side," Scarlet argues back. "Howard swore loyalty to my father. If he thinks I've betrayed him, he might turn against me." The goddess is not impressed, muttering, "But if he was with your father in the first place, he'd be safe." Losing her patience, Turasakunetia leaps onto Scarlet's head, grabbing her hair in frustration. "Why did it come to this? I told you." The goddess then spells out the catastrophic future Scarlet has just set in motion. That fat pig Aaron will attack the moment he knows Howard is gone, and that will trigger a bloody civil war that will engulf the entire kingdom. "And once your father finds out," the goddess continues, "he and Howard will both turn against you." Scarlet considers this grim possibility. That's true. The goddess is absolutely speechless. "You're way too calm," she shrieks. "You need to take this more seriously." But a confident smirk spreads across Scarlet's face. "If I just use my invincible and a bare-handed brawl power to send Aaron flying..." Turasakunetia is aghast. "Wait, are you saying you want to beat up Howard yourself?" Ignoring the frantic deity, Scarlet cheerfully calls out towards the door. In the other room, Cyril is busy searching under the furniture. He stands up, disappointed. As expected of that stoic knight, I can't find his diary, let alone any dirty magazines. Suddenly he hears Scarlet's voice call out, "Come in!" But as Cyril heads for Scarlet's room, a voice calls out, stopping him in his tracks. It's the steward, Aaron, holding a bottle of wine with a syrupy smile. "Guarding Lady Scarlet is a great honor. You must be the hope of the guard knights." He pours a generous glass, his intentions clear. "Still, you can't be tense all the time. How about a drink to liven things up?" Cyril laughs, initially waving it off. "Ah ha ha, I'd love to, but I'm on duty." But his resolve is paper thin, and a moment later he's downing the entire glass. Aaron's grin widens into a predatory smirk. Now that's what I like to see. The effect is immediate. Cyril stumbles back, already flushed and giddy. "I'm so honored." He hiccups, his eyes losing focus. "Huh? What's happening?" Aaron's face distorts with satisfaction. "Oh my, you got drunk rather quickly." Completely wasted, Cyril slurs his words, his guard totally gone. "Guarding is usually so quiet. You've really done me a favor." and with a final slurred word, Cyril is out cold, collapsing onto the sofa. His task complete, Aaron's grip tightens on the empty glass. He makes his way down the silent corridor, lantern in hand, heading straight for his target. The keys to the estate jingle at his hip. He stops right in front of Scarlett's chambers. A vile, triumphant smirk twists his features. Inside, the sound of a key turning in the lock breaks the silence. But Scarlett is wide awake, her eyes snapping open. "He's here!" The door slowly creaks open, spilling the light from his lantern into her room. Aaron steps fully into the room, his face twisted in a greasy, self-satisfied smirk. He crosses the threshold. He looms over her bed, but Scarlett is already sitting up, fully dressed in her armor, meeting his gaze. A disgusting, lecherous blush spreads across his face. For a moment, Scarlett feigns fear, thinking, "He's so big, so overbearing, I'm scared," but her expression hardens instantly as she snaps, "I have the status invincible in a bare-handed brawl. I don't recall inviting you into my room. Get out." Aaron is stunned, speechless. Her hand clenches the bedsheet, knuckles white with resolve. But his shock quickly melts into a condescending chuckle. He looms over her, his voice dripping with menace. "Who do you think you're talking to?" "Scarlett." Aaron declares, "This entire mansion is mine." He leans in closer, his voice a possessive growl. "And that includes you." But Scarlett's fear is gone, replaced by cold logic. "You are mistaken," she states calmly. "This is the Rosian family's mansion." Aaron's face twists into a smug sneer. "The only one in my way, Howard, is gone. Maybe he finally got sick of you and left for good, eh?" Her eyes narrow into dangerous slits. "If you do not leave," she warns, "I will use force." Aaron pauses. He blinks in confusion. "Huh?" And then he bursts out laughing, turning his back on her as if she's told the funniest joke in the world. Wiping a tear from his eye, he sneers, "Since when did you get so good at telling jokes?" Scarlett's expression remains unchanged. She's not laughing. "You're going to eliminate me?" He scoffs, repeating her words with utter disbelief. He smirks, his confidence absolute. "Your precious Howard isn't here, and your replacement knight is fast asleep in the next room." His face twists into a triumphant, ugly grin. "So what are you going to do?" "No one will come if you scream for help," he declares, "because everyone in this mansion answers only to me." He looks down on her with pure contempt. "Are you going to resist? With those slender little arms?" Aaron reaches for her, his voice a possessive growl. "Scarlett, just be a good girl and become mine." In a flash of movement, Scarlett's voice cuts through the silence. "I did warn you." A terrifying aura emanates from Scarlett as she sits on the bed, her face hidden in shadow, a chilling smile playing on her lips. Aaron is momentarily stunned. Then a deliberate tap of her foot. As the moon watches on, Scarlett rises to face him. She jabs a single gloved finger into his chest. With a predatory gaze, she issues a challenge. "Face me in a one-on-one duel." A beat of silence. Her finger presses harder as she repeats the demand. The steward's arrogance evaporates, replaced by pure, dumbfounded shock. She knows exactly what she has to do, thinking, "There's no winning this with words." While he's still off guard, she slaps his hand away and sweeps his leg, sending the portly steward stumbling backward. Aaron finally snaps out of his stupor, sputtering, "Huh? A one-on-one duel?" He looks down at her with renewed arrogance. Hey, Scarlett. Where on earth did you learn such vulgar words?" But Scarlett knows his tricks, thinking, before he can talk his way out of this. She closes the distance, and with a single, effortless motion, she crushes the lantern in his hand. Her eyes burn with an icy, silent rage. Stunned into silence, Aaron's fear turns back to arrogance as he latches onto the one thing he can criticize, her clothes. "What is this getup? Are you playing at being a soldier?" He tries to lecture her on propriety, demanding, "Where is your nightwear? A Margrave's daughter shouldn't be dressed like this." "Have you no sense of your station as a noble?" he preaches, but Scarlett simply ignores him. He clutches his head in feigned despair, lamenting what will become of the Rosian family's future with her in charge. Then, his true nature reemerges with a sickening sneer. "Looks like I'll have to personally teach you a lesson." His threat hits its mark, and for a terrifying second, the old, timid Scarlett returns as she flinches. Her confidence shatters as she remembers her power isn't truly her own, thinking, "The goddess said I was invincible, but my body moved without me even thinking." Facing him all by myself. It's impossible for me. The goddess's dire warning flashes through her mind. If Aaron succeeds tonight, she'll be forced to marry him, sparking the civil war, a future that ends in the complete and utter collapse of the kingdom. I have to stop that from happening, she thinks, her head bowed in despair. Aaron mistakes her fear for submission, his face splitting into a smug grin. Finally understand your place? His hand looms over her as he sneers, "Now, just leave everything to me." She's completely alone. Howard isn't here and Cyril won't be coming to help. But in that moment of absolute despair, a thought cuts through the fear like lightning. If I am invincible in a bare-handed brawl, then I have no choice but to fight. An immense pressure explodes from her as she stands, her voice a low growl. To protect the country, that is the duty of a Margrave's house. She plants her foot with a resounding thud. The timid girl is gone. In her place stands a warrior, her eyes burning with resolve. Without a word, she explodes into motion, closing the distance in a heartbeat. But a fist can be easily injured. So instead, she unleashes a powerful palm strike. The impact sends a shockwave through Aaron's entire body. The air is forced from his lungs in a choked gasp. A quiet thought crosses her mind. I can do this. She picks up the broken lantern, her movements fluid and precise. She's a blur of motion, a dance of destruction around the stunned steward. Her body is finally moving as she wills it, free and unrestrained. A thrill runs through her as she realizes, I can move freely! Aaron's knees hit the floor. He's still reeling from the first blow. But he senses a flash of movement from above. Scarlet leaps, swinging the heavy lantern in a powerful arc. She brings it down with devastating force right on his head. She lands gracefully, a chillingly focused glint in her eyes. Aaron is out cold before he even hits the ground. She takes a silent step forward. With the immediate threat neutralized, she calmly searches Aaron's body. She finds exactly what she's looking for. A cold smile spreads across her face. This will do. She moves to the door and finds two of Aaron's men standing guard, completely stunned to see her. They gape at the scene inside, shouting, Lady Scarlet! What happened to Master Aaron? Her expression is pure ice. So you two were the lookouts for his little ambush? She lifts the lantern again, her voice dripping with contempt. You all seem to have forgotten who the master of this house is. Allow me to remind you. The heavy lantern crashes down on the stunned guards. With a predator's focus, Scarlet moves between the two stunned men. She swings the heavy lantern with devastating force, sending one of them flying. One down. And two down. Just like that, she stands victorious over their crumpled forms. The makeshift weapon, now shattered, clatters to the floor. A wild, almost terrifying grin spreads across her face. She's not just surviving, she's enjoying this. But as the adrenaline fades, the thrill is replaced by a wave of exhaustion. Just then, a groan from the floor reminds her the night is far from over. Her expression hardens. I've dealt with Aaron's immediate attack, she thinks, but this is just the beginning. She realizes the rot runs deep. An atmosphere where subordinates can be insolent to their master. It's pervasive here. Her fist clenches with resolve. I've decided. A confident, almost predatory smile appears. With my invincible in a bare-handed brawl status, I will suppress this entire mansion. The plan is set. I'll take control of this whole estate myself. But then a sudden thought stops her cold. Wait, what about Cyril? She remembers Aaron's smug words about the replacement knight being fast asleep next door. A dreadful possibility hits her. No way! She whips around in alarm and throws open the door to the adjacent room. Cyril! She cries, her voice laced with panic. And there he is, sprawled out on a sofa, completely unconscious. He's not dead, just blissfully drunk, cuddling a bottle of wine. All of Scarlet's panic evaporates, replaced by a wide, slightly terrifying smile. A single drop falls. The oblivious knight murmurs in his sleep. Drip! Drop! A cold splash on his cheek makes him stir slightly. And then Scarlet gives him the rudest awakening of his life. Cyril jolts awake with a shout. What was that? She looms over him, holding the now empty pitcher. His eyes widen in pure shock. Scarlet wastes no time, coldly informing him. While you were sleeping so soundly, your master Aaron was attacked. The gears in his head slowly start to turn. Huh? Oh, that's right. He scrambles to explain. I suddenly got incredibly sleepy after drinking the wine Aaron gave me. Scarlet is not impressed. And why exactly were you drinking wine while on guard duty? He looks genuinely confused by the question. Then he breaks into a huge, cheerful grin. Well, Howard is always drinking, so I figured it was fine. Scarlett is left utterly speechless by his incredible stupidity. Scarlett pinches the bridge of her nose, utterly exhausted by this man's existence. To be so cheerfully incompetent, he's a special kind of idiot. She sighs, "We are completely incompatible." Turning her back on him, she announces, "Well, I'm off to suppress the entire mansion now." Cyril's brain short-circuits. "Suppress? What do you mean, Lady Scarlett?" Scarlett flinches. "Whoops. My mouth slipped." She makes a break for the door, but Cyril is already scrambling after her. "Hey, wait a second." He catches up in a flash, grabbing her arm. "What do you mean by suppress?" She explains with cold precision, "It means to subdue the enemy with military force." As she marches down the hall, he keeps pace, demanding, "And who exactly is the enemy?" Scarlett replies without hesitation, "Aaron, who controls this mansion and all of his staff." Cyril is floored. I mean, he definitely has a punchable face, but this is a bit much, isn't it? Her eyes burn with cold fury. "With force, I will make them understand who is in charge here." Cyril panics, pointing at himself. "By force? But I'm the only knight here." Scarlett doesn't even look at him. "I will be the one fighting." He sputters in disbelief. "What are you talking about? There's no way you can do that." She turns back, her glare silencing him. "I can." A strange confidence fills her as she explains, "Right now I am invincible in a bare-handed brawl." Cyril just stares, completely lost. What? She turns away one last time. "Just watch, and you'll understand." And with a burst of speed, she's gone. Snapping out of his stupor, Cyril gives chase, shouting, "Hey, wait!" He desperately calls out her name, but a sudden noise makes him freeze. One of the staff members comes flying through the air, crashing hard onto the ground right in front of him. He's completely stunned. Staring down at the motionless body, he slowly looks up, a cold sweat breaking out. Down the hall, he sees Scarlett, a whirlwind of destruction, carving through the staff with a single, devastating kick. His eyes go wide in disbelief, and that disbelief instantly morphs into a wide, manic grin. She can actually fight? For real? From Cyril's perspective, the hallway has become a war zone, with Scarlett as the unstoppable force at its center. One of the staff lies motionless on the ground, but he's just faking it, cracking open an eye with a sly, malicious grin. Cyril's excitement instantly vanishes. He spots the glint of hidden throwing knives. In a flash, the supposedly unconscious man grabs his fallen comrade. It's a coordinated, dirty attack. One uses his friend as a human shield while another prepares to strike Scarlett from behind. Cyril's eyes widen in alarm. "What are they doing?" The sly staff member makes his move, unleashing a throwing knife straight at Scarlett, but her senses are already screaming danger. Without even looking, she snatches the knife right out of the air. The blade clatters uselessly to the floor. Cyril smirks, taunting the attackers. "Playing dead? That's not very chivalrous, is it?" But Scarlett is already moving, grabbing the man being used as a shield. In one fluid motion, she launches into a devastating spinning kick, using the man's body as a projectile right into the knife thrower. The sheer force sends them both flying across the hall. She lands perfectly, calmly brushing a bit of dust from her arm. "Lady Scarlett!" Cyril calls out, completely stunned. He just grins, scratching his head. Wow, that was incredible, and looked like it really hurt. Cyril leans back with a huge grin. "So, invincible in a bare-handed brawl is for real. At this rate, my job as an escort knight is totally pointless." As he chatters on, Scarlett just thinks to herself, "I really can't deal with this guy." But their conversation is cut short by a loud creaking from above. The massive chandelier is shaking violently. With a loud snap, it breaks free and plummets right towards them. In a flash, Scarlett grabs Cyril and yanks him out of the path of the falling fixture. Cyril stares up at her, completely stunned. "Lady Scarlett!" He looks at her with a new, intense curiosity. "I knew your arm strength had improved, but..." He leans in close with a sly grin. "This is something else, isn't it?" Before she can answer, the heavy tread of marching boots announces the arrival of more trouble. Cyril smirks. "Right on cue, they're here." Scarlett looks confused. He clarifies, "It's the Rosian family's night detachment. The very same unit Howard and I belong to. In terms of pure skill, they're on par with the main forces." He puffs out his chest proudly. "They're so reliable. They even help defend the capital and handle counterterrorism for the kingdom. But his pride quickly sours. At least they used to be. Ever since a man named Silas became captain, the whole unit has gone rotten. They'll happily take on lucrative bodyguard jobs for the rich, but they've cut back on actual peacekeeping patrols because it doesn't pay well. He puts a hand to his chin. The only reason they'd show up here so fast is if Aaron bribed them. Scarlet cuts straight to the point. An elite unit, so they're strong then. Cyril stares at her, bewildered by her calm demeanor. Yeah. They're still elites, even if they're crooked. Scarlet clenches her fist with grim satisfaction. And if they're corrupt, then they must be corrected. Cyril can only stare, completely baffled by her logic. Well, I guess so. A wide, predatory grin spreads across Scarlet's face, her cheeks flushed with anticipation. That's more than enough for me. And before he can say another word, she's off. Hey, wait! She sprints down the long hall, leaving a very stressed-out Cyril in her dust. Ah! For crying out loud! Down below, a trio of Rosian knights stands guard, completely oblivious as Scarlet positions herself on the landing above them, until one of them spots her. Cyril finally catches up, calling out to her, but Scarlet's focus is already fixed on the battle to come. She looks down on them with that same terrifyingly thrilled smile. She's not just facing a threat, she's savoring it. Without a moment's hesitation, Scarlet vaults over the railing, casually calling back, "I'm going on ahead!" A panicked Cyril can only scream her name. She plummets towards the hall below with a look of pure confidence, and lands with a ground-shaking thud, striking a perfect three-point landing that cracks the marble floor. The knights are completely stunned by her sudden, dramatic entrance. One of them points, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Hey, isn't that... It can't be. Scarlet straightens up, taking a deep, theatrical breath. Then she projects her voice for all to hear. I am Scarlet Rosian, daughter of the Margrave. The acting steward Aaron has treated this mansion as his own and even dared to try and assault me. The knights listen, a mix of shock and disbelief on their faces as she continues. As the master of this house, and I will suppress Aaron and any knights who have chosen to side with him. But before the knights can even process her words, a bolt of magic streaks past her cheek, drawing a single drop of blood. In the same instant, a hand lunges for her face. From the back, one of the knights clicks his tongue. Shh, I missed. But another figure suddenly steps forward, not to attack Scarlet, but to stand before her. A tall, stern-looking female knight with long silver hair. The other knights are stunned into silence by her intervention. And then, the man they answer to finally reveals himself, the corrupt Captain Silas, a smug smirk plastered on his face. The silver-haired knight glares at him. So, you're Silas... She then turns on the detachment, her voice sharp with fury. What is the meaning of this? Barging into the mansion and launching a surprise attack on its master? Silas, however, answers with a calm, practiced lie. We were contacted by the knights of this mansion. They claimed the young lady was rampaging as if possessed by a demon and asked us to restrain her. He closes his eyes, feigning justification. And when we arrived, that's exactly what we found. We merely fired some magic for the sake of suppression. But Scarlet calmly refutes his story. There's nothing strange about it. The silver-haired knight isn't buying it for a second. Why are you so convinced? You were clearly instigated by Aaron. Suddenly a panicked voice cries out from the stairs. That's right! It's Cyril, the guard knight. He looks completely flustered. That's what happened. Scarlet grits her teeth in frustration. She knows she's invincible in a brawl, but she's terrible at verbal sparring and was struggling to find the right words. So she quickly changes tactics, playing the part of a damsel in distress. I was about to be attacked by Aaron. I was just desperately fighting for my life. Silas, however, remains completely unfazed. A suspicious story, don't you think? Isn't it more likely, he counters smoothly, that Aaron was trying to restrain you after you flew into a demonic rage? His eyes glint with cold logic. Generally, if Aaron was the one who attacked you, where is your escort knight? What happened to Howard? The silver-haired knight quickly explains, Howard is away on another matter. Cyril was his substitute. Silas's gaze narrows. And at that time, what was Cyril doing? Cyril flinches, unable to meet his eye. I had a drink and fell asleep. Silas scoffs, his victory all but certain. This is absurd. No witnesses and an escort guilty of dereliction of duty. But the silver-haired knight refuses to back down. So your entire case rests on a convenient report that she went on a rampage and these unconscious men. Cyril hangs his head, knowing his mistake has cost them dearly. There's no room for debate. Seizing the moment, Silas turns to his detachment. Enough of this. Restrain her with magic. Now! His voice drops to a sinister whisper, reminding them of their loyalties. I'm not the only one who owes Aaron, am I? Are you really going to listen to this little girl's excuses? His words strike a nerve. The knights hesitate, their hands trembling as they prepare to cast their spells. But before they can target Scarlet, the knights turn their magic on her staunchest defender, instantly binding the silver-haired knight. Cyril cries out in alarm, "Lady Scarlet!" Silas just smirks, completely satisfied with his men's obedience. That's right, that's how it should be. He continues his villainous monologue, revealing he's just trying to curry favor with Aaron's family. He then looks down on Scarlet with utter contempt, telling her, "Behave yourself next time, young lady." Scarlet, however, looks completely unimpressed. In fact, she has just one thing to say about him. You reek. You have the same rotten stench as Aaron, she thinks, her patience finally gone. I guess I'll have to do this the right way. And with a surge of raw power, the magical restraints binding her begin to strain and snap under the pressure. The knights watch in absolute terror as Scarlet shatters the binding magic with her bare hands, one of them stammering, "She really is a monster," with a final deafening snap. The magical restraints are completely obliterated. She turns her cold gaze to the stunned Captain Silas. With a predatory grin, she issues a challenge, "Face me in a duel." But before he can even process the demand, she moves to the side of the captured silver-haired knight. She gently lifts the loyal knight's chin, a silent promise of retribution in her eyes. Silas is frozen in shock, but Scarlet remembers exactly what pushed her over the edge. It was his stench. "You reek," she had told him. He had smugly introduced himself as Captain Silas of the Royal Capital Detachment. But Scarlet saw right through him, telling him, "You have the same rotten stench of corruption as Aaron." Enraged, he had grabbed her, sneering about her duty as a Margrave's daughter, his final, fatal mistake. With a single, effortless flex, Scarlet snaps the magical ropes binding her loyal knight. The restraints fall away, completely useless. The silver-haired knight rises, her eyes burning with conviction. "Injustice," she declares, "will never become justice." Now standing side by side, they both point at the captain. Scarlet issues her challenge. "Fight me one-on-one, Silas." The shattered remains of her own bonds are a stark reminder of the power he's up against. Silas is still reeling, stammering. "She broke binding magic with her bare hands." Trying to regain control, he points a trembling finger and shouts, "This savagery! Just as we were told, Lady Scarlet has been possessed by a demon." Scarlet's response is a single, powerful step forward. The floor cracks under the force of her advance, and the entire knight detachment recoils in fear. But Silas's terror quickly morphs into a smug grin. "You've made a fatal mistake," he sneers, completely oblivious to the look of utter disdain on Scarlet's face. With his confidence restored, Silas barks out an order. "All knights, surround them!" He adds with a malicious grin. "And use a more powerful binding spell." But their target isn't Scarlet. They swarm the silver-haired knight instead. "Our opponent is demon-possessed," Silas yells. "Do not hesitate!" As magical runes fly towards their target. The chains of light latch onto her wrist. She strains against the spell, admitting, "This is strong." As the full incantation forms a sphere around her, she calmly analyzes the situation. "I see. This will be troublesome." She's completely trapped within the magical prison. But just as suddenly, the glowing runes begin to shatter into pieces. A new voice calls out from above, "Phew, just in the nick of time!" revealing a smirking man holding a spellbook. The smirking mage lands gracefully on the stairs, the remnants of the broken spell dissipating around him. He casually steps over one of the downed knights. Turning to the silver-haired knight, he says cheekily, "To cast a spell on that many people at once, even for an elite like me, that would have been tough. You had a hard time, didn't you?" She seems utterly unimpressed. "Well," he continues, "but I guess Captain Silas still managed to get the better of you for a moment there." Silas seethes with rage. "Cyril," he snarls, "are you planning to rebel against your superior officer?" Cyril's smile doesn't falter. That's rich coming from the man blatantly rebelling against our master, Lady Scarlet. He then shamelessly drapes an arm around the silver-haired knight, calling out, "All right, milady, I've cleared the path. The rest is up to you. Just don't forget my reward later." Scarlet watches on, a dangerous glint in her eye. Honestly, such a smooth talker. With the path cleared, Scarlet steps forward, taking back control of the situation. She points directly at the disgraced captain. "I'll say it one more time. Fight me one-on-one." Silas is speechless. His shock quickly boils over into pure, unadulterated rage. He's so furious he starts punching himself, screaming, "To be cornered by a single brat, you're all useless trash!" His tirade continues as he blames the unconscious Aaron for failing to handle one little girl. "He promised me a promotion," Silas seethes. "Completely useless." Cyril watches the meltdown with disgust. Ugh, listen to him play the victim. But suddenly Silas's rage cools into a dark, predatory grin. "A one-on-one duel, you say? Fine by me." He then lays out his disgusting terms. "If you lose, you'll become my wife, Scarlet. It would be a shame to damage that body of yours." The silver-haired knight looks on in horror as Silas sneers, "With that demonic strength, you won't die easily." He screams with pure, unhinged rage, "I'll cut you down and violate you, Scarlet!" But Scarlet simply raises her fists, ready for a fight. Silas lunges, his face a mask of crazed confidence. She effortlessly sidesteps his clumsy thrust, plants her foot firmly, and with a chillingly casual smile, drives her fist straight into his ribs. The impact is absolutely brutal. She looks almost delighted. And just like that, the duel is over before it even began. Silas is out cold, his eyes rolled back in his head. The silver-haired knight can only stare, utterly speechless. But Scarlet is already deep in thought, calmly analyzing the outcome. She seems genuinely perplexed by his weakness. "You know," she muses aloud, "they say a sound mind dwells in a sound body." Cyril, completely baffled, chimes in, but his personality is completely rotten." Scarlet offers her earnest, deadpan diagnosis. "So maybe he should try some muscle training." The sheer absurdity of the moment hangs in the air, and Cyril absolutely loses it, bursting out into laughter. Wiping a tear from his eye, he grins. "You're priceless, Lady Scarlet. You are just so bad with words." The silver-haired knight can only stare, utterly bewildered by his outburst. Even Scarlet seems confused by his reaction, but Cyril is just delighted by her strange personality. With Silas down for the count, the three allies stand victorious on the grand staircase. The rest of the corrupt knights are scattered and unconscious. The silver-haired knight turns to Cyril. "Untie my restraints." He hesitates. "Are you sure?" She simply confirms, "Yes." With a gesture, the magical bindings shatter. Now free, she turns to the remaining conscious members of the detachment. "Well then," she announces, "Captain Silas has lost." Her voice rings with authority. "From now on, you will all become my subordinates." And then she lays down the law. "If any of you object, step forward and face me in a one-on-one duel." The knights, who just witnessed what Scarlet did, wisely decide to keep their mouths shut. Her gaze is steel. Finally, one knight steps forward. He places a hand over his heart and pledges to serve her wholeheartedly. The others immediately scramble to follow his lead. In an instant, the entire detachment bows, pledging their loyalty to their new commander. Scarlet watches the scene unfold. With the knights now under control, she announces her next move. "I'm heading to Aaron's office." She walks off without another word, as Cyril tries to call out to her. But she's already at the door, producing a key from seemingly nowhere. Cyril can only watch in confusion, wondering, "A key? When did she even get that?" With a confident smirk, she says, "Well then." Throwing open the doors, she declares her plan. "We'll seize the evidence of Aaron's corruption, show it to my father, and have him dismissed." But Cyril immediately raises a valid point. "And how exactly do you plan on finding that evidence?" Scarlet freezes. "Eh?" Her confident facade crumbles. "You don't have a plan?" Cyril shouts in disbelief as Scarlet looks away sheepishly. They both stare at the mountains of paperwork on the desk. Cyril despairs. "You want us to go through all of this?" He immediately tries to get out of it. "Besides, I'm no Howard. I don't know the first thing about finances. My specialty is magic, you know," he boasts. But Scarlet latches onto his other comment. "So Howard would understand this." "Oh yes," she confirms. "Despite his appearance, Howard is brilliant. He can handle everything from military strategy to budget allocation. Scarlett reflects on this new information. So he was like a military strategist. That's a problem, she admits. He's currently on his way to the main territory to report on the situation. Cyril panics. What? So what are we supposed to do? Staring at the paper mountain, Scarlett offers a weak suggestion. Should we just lock the office until he gets back? A sly grin spreads across Cyril's face. He strikes a pose, thoroughly enjoying her predicament. What should I do, I wonder? Leaning in with a mischievous glint in his eye, he whispers, I could teach you, but it's my special technique, you know? Scarlett just stares, confused. Her patience wearing thin, she crosses her arms and demands, If you have a good idea, just tell me. Cyril recoils dramatically. Nope, not when you ask like that. Scarlett is utterly dumbfounded by his childishness. Defeated, Scarlett sighs, Then let's just lock the room. Cyril immediately starts flailing his arms, shouting, Whoa, that's not what I meant! He leans in with puppy dog eyes, whining, Come on, don't be so mean. You're supposed to beg me to teach you. But Scarlett shuts him down with a single word. Impossible. Cyril's teasing demeanor fades as he observes her. Lady Scarlett, you're so pretty, but you have trouble communicating, don't you? Scarlett glares back, snapping, Stop talking about my face. She looks away, admitting, Because of it, I've always been kept at a distance. People talk behind my back. It's caused me nothing but trouble. A look of understanding dawns on Cyril's face. Is that why you're always alone? A moment of silence passes between them. Suddenly his face lights up with a brilliant idea. In that case, let's be friends. Scarlett is completely stunned. Huh? Flustered, she throws her hands up defensively, stammering. Well, wait a minute! You're a knight of the Rosian family! The status gap between a master and a retainer is far too great. But Cyril's cheeky grin doesn't falter. We can still be friends, he insists. But he goes for the killing blow. You do need my power, don't you? Scarlett looks down, her cynicism showing. Friends don't just use each other for their abilities. But Cyril cheerfully counters, Think of it as the perfect opportunity for us to become friends. She's shocked by his blunt, cheerful logic. How can you put it like that? He just gives her a brilliant, disarming smile. See? Scarlett is at a complete loss for words.
She clenches her fist at her side.
Taking a breath, she looks up with new resolve. Then, she reaches out her hand, their fingers touch, and they shake on it. With a firm grip, Scarlett formally accepts. Let's work well together. Cyril's face absolutely lights up. He beams, telling her, Just stay like that, Scarlett. I'll show you my power. Suddenly, the papers on the desk begin to float. They lift into the air as if by an invisible force. In an instant, Cyril's magic fills the room, suspending every document and ledger in a swirling vortex around them. Scarlett can only stare in utter disbelief. What is this? Cyril grins cheekily, popping into view. That's right, he exclaims, as entire stacks of ledgers fly through the air. I can use magic to move things in and out of subspace. He turns to Scarlett with a smug look. So, changed your opinion of me? Scarlett, still holding his hand, admits, For a mere guard knight to use such advanced magic, I see you really are skilled. Cyril feigns being hurt, crying, You doubted me! How cruel! With a final whoosh, every last document vanishes. All right, Cyril says, satisfied. He starts walking confidently, explaining, Now all I have to do is take this to the main territory and show Lord Rosian all of Aaron's corruption. But just then, the doors to the office slam open, revealing a panicked and disheveled Aaron. Both Scarlett and Cyril can only stare, completely caught off guard. Aaron stares at the empty shelves. The entire office is completely spotless. Sweating, he stammers, What is this? He points a trembling finger at them, demanding, You! What did you do with all the documents? But Cyril just flashes a smug grin. I've already sent them all to the main territory, he announces cheerfully, much to Scarlett's surprise. What? Aaron sputters, looking around frantically. That's impossible. Even Scarlett is silently questioning how he managed it. Cyril just gives her a sly little shh before explaining, Right now, they're on their way to the main territory where Howard and the accounting experts will be examining every last page. Aaron is completely stunned. He finally explodes, shouting, You think you can just do whatever you want? But Cyril just smirks, completely unfazed. That's when Scarlet steps forward, declaring with newfound authority, "I gave him permission." Aaron's face twists in fury. "I am the master of this mansion!" He seethes. Losing the last of his composure, he lunges at her, screaming her name. But Scarlet plants her foot and sends him flying with a brutal kick right to the stomach. "If you're not satisfied," she says with an icy glare, "then fight me one-on-one again." Defeated, Aaron can only groan in pain. He can only scream in frustration. With the situation handled, Cyril turns to Scarlet with a perfect formal smile. "Well then, Lady Scarlet, shall we depart?" Scarlet gives him a flat look, remarking, "So you can use honorifics." He just chuckles softly. Leaning in close, he whispers, "Only in front of others. When we're alone, we can go back to being casual friends." She is clearly not amused. She lets out a heavy sigh. Leaving the disgraced steward groaning on the floor, they head out into the night. Once they're alone, Cyril's cheerful demeanor returns instantly. "That went perfectly, Scarlet." Scarlet is not impressed, but Cyril just smirks, telling her, "The real show starts now." He leads her to a large set of doors and says, "Please open them." He begins to chant a spell, and a massive magic circle begins to glow on the floor. Even Cyril seems impressed by his own work. Scarlet, however, is dryly sarcastic. A high-level teleportation circle, as expected of a noble's mansion, after you. Cyril thinks to himself that Howard could have just used this to get to the main territory instantly. He places his hand on the circle and it flares to life, but Scarlet points out a flaw in his grandstanding. "If you use such flashy magic, won't Aaron find out?" Cyril immediately pivots. "All right then, I'll just deliver the documents and come right back." He confirms with her, "So you're really not going? I suppose the master can't just leave when the mansion is in such chaos." Scarlet clenches her fist, her eyes filled with cold resolve. "I have to correct this situation, thoroughly." Cyril laughs, delighted by her intensity. "Got it! Sounds like it'll be fun when I get back." Scarlet just tells him, "Hurry up and go." But his playful demeanor suddenly shifts. "That's not right, Scarlet, since we're friends at times like this." She pauses, listening. He smiles warmly. "You're supposed to say, 'See you later.'" Her gloved hand clenches tightly. Averting her gaze, she mutters, "Fine, see you later." And Cyril is absolutely beaming, completely satisfied. With a final, cheerful wave, Cyril shouts, "I'll be back before you know it." The light from the teleportation circle fades, and just like that, he's gone. Scarlet lets out an exasperated sigh. Honestly, I can't keep up with Cyril's antics. She recalls his earlier audacious proposal. "Then let's be friends." But a faint, almost imperceptible smile touches her lips. She turns on her heel. Now truly alone, Scarlet heads back inside, ready to finish what she started.